Last Bronx.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Grad's Games. Today I'm talking about a game called Last Bronx. It's a 3D fighting game for the Sega Saturn that promised gritty urban combat and arcade style action. But here's the million-dollar question. Was it a great fighter or just another forgotten brawler? Let's get stuck in. Released by Sega in 1996, Last Bronx made its debut in arcades before hitting the Sega Saturn in 1997. It was part of Sega's big push to showcase the Saturn's ability to handle arcade-perfect ports. The game was set in a fictional version of Tokyo where rival gangs fought to dominate the streets using weapons like nunchucks, swords and metal pipes. At the time, Last Bronx stood out for its gritty urban aesthetic, a stark contrast to the more fantastical settings of games like Virtua Fighter or Tekken. Sega aimed to deliver a grounded, realistic fighting experience, well, as realistic as nunchuck fights in the middle of Tokyo can get. Gameplay wise, Last Bronx had all the right ingredients for a solid fighter. It featured smooth animations, a surprisingly deep combo system, and a unique emphasis on weapon-based combat. The controls were tight, the action was fast, and the learning curve wasn't too punishing, making it accessible to casual and hardcore players alike. But here's the thing, Last Bronx wasn't just about button mashing, no sir. Timing and strategy played a huge role, especially when facing off against the game's tougher AI or a skilled human opponent. Plus, each character's weapon really made a difference in their playstyle, adding a layer of strategy you didn't always see in other fighters of the era. Visually, the Saturn port was a little bit of a mixed bag. While it didn't quite match the arcade version's sharpness, it was still mighty impressive for a home console in 1997. The character models were detailed, the stages were atmospheric, and the overall presentation captured that gritty, street fighting vibe Sega was going for. However, let's be honest, compared to the polished 3D visuals of Tekken 3 on the PlayStation, Last Bronx felt a little bit dated. The Saturn's hardware struggled to keep up, and the game's jagged edges and occasional frame drops were hard to ignore. When Last Bronx launched, it received decent reviews, with critics praising its unique take on the fighting genre, but despite the positive reception, the game didn't quite catch on in the way Sega had hoped. One reason? Maybe timing? By the late 90s, the Saturn was losing ground to the PlayStation, and even great games like Last Bronx were overshadowed. The rise of Tekken, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat certainly didn't help either. And so Last Bronx faded into obscurity, beloved by a niche audience but largely forgotten by the masses. So you tell me, was Last Bronx a great fighter or just another forgotten brawler? Honestly, I think it's a bit of both. It was a bold attempt to stand out in a crowded genre, and in many ways it succeeded. The weapon-based combat, gritty aesthetic and fast-paced gameplay definitely make it worth revisiting, but its technical limitations and the Saturn's dwindling popularity meant it never got the recognition it truly deserved. If you're a fan of retro fighters, Last Bronx is absolutely worth checking out. Let me know in the comments, did you play Last Bronx back in the day, or was this your first time hearing about it? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.